lost Governor Christie here. There you are. Is that me? Okay. Got vertigo down here. Hi, everybody. Hi, everyone. I was just saying back in our office that there are very few things, Governor Christie will appreciate this, where you do it for the very first time. And this is one of them. So it's a pretty cool reason to get together here, everyone. Please join me in welcoming back to the State House the 55th governor of the great state of New Jersey, Chris Christie, and the star and the guest of honor today, former lieutenant governor and the first lieutenant governor in the history of our state, Kim Guadagno. My partner in government, Lieutenant Governor Tahisha Way, is with us today. Tahisha, great to have you. My partner in the bigger sense, Tammy Murphy, is in the rotunda with us. Nice to have you. Back to Tahisha and Kim, I can say from personal experience, I know Governor Christie will agree, that the role of Lieutenant Governor and Secretary of State often don't get the credit that they deserve and the throw weight that they have. We could not do what we do as governors or in government without you. So deep, deep thanks. And speaking of people who we could not succeed without, Kim's husband, Judge Michael Guadagno, is here today. Michael, it's great to have you with us. Two of your boys are here, Kevin and Michael. One just married, one a major in the Air Force. How about that for a 1-2 punch? Their son Anderson wanted to be here, but he's in California, so we'll give him a shout out in absentia. And, you know, as doing this kind of work and raising a family in the public eye is not easy, as Chris and Tammy and Tahisha and I and Mary Pat in absentia can all attest to. And you two have done an extraordinary job raising your family, so God bless you both. You're also today, Kim, surrounded by a posse of friends, and we say welcome to everybody. We've got Emily on the front row with the team. We saw Larry Downs, Peter Venero, Karen Kessler, and others, but to each and every one of the friends who are here today, welcome. And I also want, where's Liza? Is she here? Liza, it's Liza, right? So this is way cool. I want to acknowledge the beautiful work, which we're going to see in a moment, of New Jersey native artist Liza Amir, as well as I want to thank the executive director. Is Margaret here? Where are you, Margaret? Right beside Liza. The executive director of the State Museum, Margaret O'Reilly, and her team for their efforts in bringing this portrait to life. Among other cool things on Liza's resume is you've studied and lived in Umbria and in Florence, and we need to talk to you and get some tips from you privately in that part of the world later. So one of the great hallmarks of American democracy is that when it is done right, we can stand here together regardless of our party or our past political realities to celebrate a career devoted to public service and meaningful contributions to the people of New Jersey. And for decades, Kim, you have opened doors, broken down barriers, and made a real difference in the lives of New Jerseyans in every corner of our state. As New Jersey's first Lieutenant Governor and our Secretary of State, you served for 8 years with tireless dedication to the people and communities of this state. But your service neither began in that office nor did it end there. Every chapter of your career, from the courtroom to the classroom, law enforcement to nonprofit leadership, has read as a love letter to the Garden State and the people who call this great state home. And perhaps nowhere was that more clearly expressed than in the advice you offered our next generation of leaders just a couple of months ago when you spoke at Georgian Court University's commencement. And you told the graduates, and I quote Kim, "Find your passion and follow it so that you wake up every morning doing what you love, and reach as you rise to help someone else along the way, and make our communities better. So well said. You have more than lived those words, Kim. You have forever changed the lives of so many, and it is clear that you have loved every minute of it, or at least most of the minutes. It is only fitting that we recognize your lasting contributions with a portrait that will stand the test of time, and I'm confident that your example will continue to inspire all who see this portrait in these halls as they follow in your footsteps. A moment of personal privilege. This is a day of triumph by any measure, but it was born out of a day of tragedy, and that is the passing of Sheila Oliver almost 2 years ago. And the notion that, hey, wait a minute, we've never had portraits of lieutenant governors. Of course, we never had lieutenant governors until Kim came along. Would that not be a fitting step to take in honor of you and ultimately Tahisha and the many who will follow, but also in Sheila's memory? So it's a poignant moment that brings us together today, and we have the honor next month of unveiling Sheila's portrait right here in this very same location. But Kim, back to you. Thank you for your decades of devoted service to this state and the state that we all love so much. It is now my great honor to welcome my predecessor, the 55th, John Berzicelli is here. John, I didn't see you. Senator, excuse me, the 55th governor of the great state of New Jersey. Please help me welcome Governor Chris Christie.
Well, good afternoon. Welcome to everybody's here. First to Governor Murphy and to the First Lady. Thank you for your friendship and for your invitation to be here with all of you today. Mary Pat sends her best to both of you and obviously to Kim and Mike and the Guadagno family. And I am happy to not only represent myself today, but her and our 4 children. And Bridget and I were talking about this yesterday. Bridget is our youngest and just graduated from the University of Notre Dame a month ago. She was 6 years old on our inauguration day. And I went back to look at that inaugural video to prepare for today. And specifically, Kim, Bridget and I were looking at it together and how much Bridget was sitting next to the Lieutenant Governor during the inaugural and how much she bugged Kim during the entire, and you're very nice, Kim, but you know, Bridget could not stop talking to Kim, and Kim was nicely looking at her and nodding, yes, throughout the entire ceremony. And then when the benediction was going to happen, Bridget continued to talk, and Kim finally played mother and went and told Bridget to keep quiet. So Bridget sends her best and apologizes 15 years later for her conduct at the inaugural. What I thought about is that yesterday was 16 years since I announced Kim to be my running mate. And it was completely uncharted territory. No one had ever done this before. We didn't know what a lieutenant governor would exactly do. We didn't know what that person should look like or be like. And I talked to a lot of people in preparation for making the choice, although not nearly as many as you might think. No one thought I was going to win. So a lot of the people that I went to ask just to submit their information went, yeah, I'll pass. Our mutual friend, John Bramnick, when I asked John to be considered, John said to me, have you looked at my 1040? I can't take that kind of pay cut. So there were a lot of various reactions to even being asked to consider it. In the end, from the people that I did consider, I asked advice of a longtime friend of mine. I said, what do you think I should do here? And he said, pick the person you like the most. And it was the best advice I got, and that's exactly what I did. I picked the person that I liked the most and then trusted her to make the job what it could be because no one had done it before. And there was not a day in the 8 years where she did not try to make the job the most she could make it. From giving away her cell phone number to literally every person in New Jersey who still has it, and she hasn't changed the number. And so I'm sure she still gets calls complaining about something that now she is neither responsible for nor can do much about, to leading the efforts in us reducing bureaucracy and red tape that burdened our citizens and prevented a lot of business growth from happening, to being the advocate all the time in my ear for the business community in this state and what we hadn't done enough of or at all anything of that she wanted to make sure got done. And really at the most critical time of our service together, she did not walk away from her responsibilities when she and her family were victims of Hurricane Sandy, significant victims of Hurricane Sandy. And she did not call me and say, I need to deal with my home here, get someone else to do it. She stood right next to me the entire time through both the storm itself and then the recovery from it, and played an enormous role in comforting the people of the state because she, unlike me, could empathize with what they were going through. I could sympathize with them. Kim Guadagno could empathize with those victims and did in every corner of the state for months and months and months after the storm initially hit. She doesn't get a lot of credit for that. She didn't have a fleece like I did, and so she didn't get the credit that I got. But I can tell you that she worked every bit as hard and every bit as well, and that the people of the state would not have recovered as quickly as they did without Kim's leadership, but just as importantly, without her empathy and her understanding of what they were going through every day. I knew her husband before I knew her. He worked with me at the United States Attorney's Office and was a leader there. And I cannot believe how old, not Kim, but I'm getting when I look at Michael and Kevin and what extraordinary young men I always knew they would grow up to be. But I'm so happy to see the both of you today, and make sure you send my best to Andy as well, because I know he would love to be here and would certainly add flavor and color to the event, without any doubt. So, Governor, thank you for doing this. I've said this to Kim any number of times. She took an impossible position and made it work. And as you said, Governor, she loved almost every day of it. I have specific memories of some of the days that I know she didn't love. And some of those days I was actually the cause of why she didn't love the job. I tried to make those as small as possible, but Kim, I'm so glad that you're being recognized today for creating this position. And, you know, for those of you who don't know, I'll just end with this because it's the way government practically works. You know, the majority in the legislature and my predecessor created the lieutenant governor's position, and I think they were fully anticipating that Loretta Weinberg would be the first lieutenant governor of New Jersey. When Kim and I upset the apple cart on that plan, the legislature, and I'm sure Governor Murphy would not be able to relate to them doing something screwy at all, but they decided in punishment for our victory to not fund a salary for the lieutenant governor or any budget for staff. And when I went to the then Senate President, Senator Cody, and said to him, you know, we have no salary for the lieutenant governor and no budget for her staff, he said, oh, really, that's too bad. That is the way the lieutenant governor became the Secretary of State. It was a decision of practicality. I had to figure out a way to pay her. And so she became the Secretary of State, not by choice, but by necessity, because it gave her a staff budget and it gave her a salary to be able to be here. So I think that started a tradition that we didn't intend, at least in part. Now with Tahisha, Sheila did it a different way. But maybe someday the legislature, and I see Senator Bertucelli here, one of my favorite legislators, and I'm sure the senator is going to go back and work on this for the next administration, that the lieutenant governor could actually have a salary and a staff budget and all the rest, that if the governor wants to put his lieutenant governor in a spot where they do something else as well, great, but they shouldn't have to do it. And I will be eternally grateful to Senator Cody for his kind words of, oh, well, that's too bad. But I was glad to have you there, and especially glad to have you there in 2012, when not only did she help us recover from Sandy, but ran the presidential election 8 days after the storm, which was no mean feat. And if you ever wonder who did it, just look at that portrait. So I'm honored you've been my partner. You continue to be my friend. And the advice that I got to pick the one I liked the most was the right advice then, and it's the same sentiment now. Congratulations, and thank you, Governor.
Governor, that was awesome. It also explains why Governor Cody was unable to make today's ceremony. Thank you for those great words and for reminding us of some of the biggest feats of Lieutenant Governor Guadagno. Again, there have only been 3 lieutenant governors in the history of the state, and it is my honor to introduce my partner in government, the one and only extraordinary Lieutenant Governor Tahisha Way.
I think it's still morning time, so good morning. And it is truly an exciting day to enshrine the historic service of New Jersey's first Lieutenant Governor on the walls of our State House. And I'm not just saying that because one day my portrait will be up here, and I hope they make me look like Halle Berry, y'all. But in all seriousness, we're here today to honor my friend, the original LG. Now, I first met Kim as the incoming Secretary of State. She was preparing to leave office and honestly could have done the bare minimum, but chose to make herself fully available to me. She was transparent about the Department of State's operations, gave authentic insight about intergovernmental cooperation between different departments, and helped identify key staff whose knowledge and experience are vital to DOS and our service to the great people of New Jersey. She selflessly put people before politics and helped us hit the ground running on behalf of our constituents. That's right, everyone. As the governor said, people from different parties can not only have a conversation, we can actually be friends. And I know I value, Kim, our girl lunch time. And when we lost Sheila Oliver a few years ago, LG Guadagno was one of the first people I connected with to talk about how to balance these 2 roles that only she and I have served. I would be remiss not to thank Governor Murphy for recognizing that lieutenant governors are an integral part of state government and New Jersey's history, and by ensuring that our portraits aren't stuck in the basement either. Correct, Governor? I want to also shout out State Museum Executive Director Margaret O'Reilly and her team for the work they do coordinating these portraits. So as we expand the number of people who hold this role, I hope they will look to us in portrait and in person as they make this job their own. And in that spirit, I close and I thank you again, Kim, for all that you do for the great people of New Jersey. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tahisha, for your service and for your great words. I couldn't help listening to you and Governor Christie just looking up at some of these august gentlemen here behind me. Kim, it'll be nice to have you hanging here. Not literally. It is now my great honor to introduce the very special reason why we're here today. Please help me welcome former and first Lieutenant Governor Kim Guadagno.
You know, I don't make these speeches anymore. It used to be 4 or 5, 6 a day, but now, you know, no staff. I'm on my own here. So I want to start basically by saying thank you. And I'm looking around the room, and I'm going to try not to cry, because the number of people in this room who have become a part of this office of the Lieutenant Governor are innumerable, and I owe them such a debt of gratitude. I want to start first by saying thank you to Governor Murphy, to First Lady Tammy Murphy. Thank you for all you've done in terms of the state of New Jersey, but mostly thank you for recognizing the importance of the office of Lieutenant Governor. I know the circumstances were sad, but I was so happy to get a phone call. In my phone, you know, the cell phone number all of you have, it is still 609-575-8111. I couldn't help it. I have two governors, 55 and 56. And when they call, it comes up as 55 or 56. So when Governor Murphy called, 56 popped up. And I was like, what does 56 want me for? And then when he got on the phone, he said, Lieutenant Governor Sheila Oliver had passed, and you had decided to honor her in this way. And I was lucky enough to be on that ship as it sailed. It was an amazing conversation, and not just a little bit awkward for those of us who have never had their picture painted like this. And having mentioned the picture painter, Liza, stand up. You are just fabulous. When you guys see this picture, yeah. So Margaret O'Reilly, who's the head of the museum, set us up with a couple of people, and you get to interview them and everything else, and you get to go through all their resumes. You who have had your portraits done or will have your portraits done know this process. She gave me on one of the names, Liza Amir. And Liza Amir, not only is she a fabulous artist, and she's drawn many people that I personally know, so I know how specific and how good she is. You're a Jersey girl, born and raised here, a mother, and those two things were perfect for me when it came to deciding who to do it. And it was a fabulous job. Literally was that easy. She came into my living room, took a picture, and I saw it as you will see it more or less in just a few minutes. Thank you, Liza, for all of your patience with me, and Margaret O'Reilly from the State Museum the same. It's very awkward for me. For 8 years, I walked into the State House, and I'm looking up right now. For 8 years, I walked into the State House, and every time I walked in, I said to myself, and to the people in the cars with me, I see some troopers that we drove around with for a long time, Becky, Dawn, Brian. I said, I'm going to miss this place. I'm going to miss this place. I'm going to miss the love, the tears, the fights, the secrets, the things that I will never report, because if the guy makes you the first Lieutenant Governor of the state of New Jersey, the one thing you always say is, I love you, Governor, and I thank you for everything. But you're going to miss this, the good days, the bad days, the ability to change people's lives, the ability just to be nice and kind to people, the ability to sneak your hometown's fourth grade classroom into the governor's back office when he's out of town and he'll never know. So I just want to tell you that you all not only have the privilege of working here, but you have a public trust, and one that I hope that you are made aware of every day, because you are going to miss this when you're done. To my family who's here today, it's hard to pick which one. They always fight over which one. I could start with the easy one. That's Andy. Anybody know Andy? Yeah, because you would know it was a joke. I want to thank Kevin for serving our country. For 8 years, I was known as Kevin's mom. Most veterans knew me as Kevin's mom, and they knew if they called, I would be there. Anytime, for any reason, I always showed up for them. My son Kevin is a major in the United States Air Force, and I don't get to see him a lot, and so for him to take time out of his day and get permission to be here, thank you, Kevin, for being here and for letting me show up with those veterans. My son Mikey is here also, recently married. As many times as I showed up for veterans in New Jersey, Mikey showed up for me. There's always that one kid who, when you turn around, you're having a good day or a bad day, you turn around, and out of nowhere, Mikey G pops up. You're like, how does he know I'm having a good day or a bad day? But he's always there for me, and I wanted to say thank you. Now here comes the tears. And the last one is Andy. The best part about Andy is he moved to California and cannot wait to move back to New Jersey. The one thing he has learned is it's really a pretty good state, and he is a through and through Jersey kid, and God help us all when he comes back. My family knows the sacrifices and the joys of public service. My poor husband, he hates it when I say this, and I'm going to say it again because he can't answer back. Poor suffering spouse. There's a club for people like that. We've been married 34 years, but we had an 8-year hiatus. 8 years when I simply was never home. Just was never home. I stand here as Lieutenant Governor of the state where I was married, where our sons were born, where our sons grew up, and where we built our lives together. It's an experience I wouldn't change for all of the money in the world, but it's an experience I never could have had without the support and the love and the patience of Judge Michael Guadagno. Thank you, Judge. I love you, and I thank you. Many of you might not know that as a judge, he was never allowed to come to any of our events. There's a couple of little minor exceptions when he had to appeal to the Supreme Court to go on a date with me. He won. But judges are totally out of the political realm. Separate bank accounts, separate cars, separate everything. And Mike suffered through all that. Mike, my husband, suffered through all of that for 8 years. So I thank you for that. I love you, and I cannot thank you enough. I am making up for it now, but that's a different story. I want to thank and give my deepest gratitude to the people of New Jersey. I know this was not in the budget at the time Sheila passed. I know everybody had to scrimp and save to find the money to make this portrait. I want to thank the people of New Jersey because they paid for it. The taxpayers paid for this. And it's special to me to serve for that. It has been a privilege of a lifetime to have served for them and with them over these 8 years. And to Governor Christie, I don't even know where to start with you. Although the people in the back would love it if I did. There's some secrets that you keep because you have such a close working relationship with people that some things you don't even have to talk about, some things you don't have to say out loud. The first memory my kids, and we were talking about this last night, have of you is going up to your house in Mendham with your 4 kids, about the same age as my 3 kids, and staying all night long, Mary Pat cooking barbecue and saying, the kids saying they don't want to go. They don't want to leave. They would have stayed all night long. That's how closely the families work together and how much we have in common. And all of the things you've done for me over these 16 years and a day ago yesterday, we were standing on a boardwalk in Asbury Park. Everything that has happened since then is due to you, and I thank you so very, very much. For those of you that don't know, lieutenant governors run on tickets. They run together. I often say, people always said during the campaign, you'll remember this, Silent Kim, right? Look, there's one governor. You elected one governor. I think that's the system the Congress or the legislature set up. And the 5 most important words, if you're the lieutenant governor, to that governor is, I am not the governor. The governor sets policy. You're the lieutenant governor. You have your own ways of doing things. I do often say that sometimes I can be the acting governor. I'm looking at Taisha. The acting governor, the lieutenant governor, and the 33rd Secretary of State, and I only get one salary. I often say that. That's for Governor Cody. But it's a fabulous job. I want to extend my greatest gratitude to you, Governor. It has been quite a ride. Public service is more than just a job, it's a calling. It's a commitment to making things better for all of our communities and trying to make a tangible difference in people's lives. It's about putting the needs of others before your own and striving every day to uphold the trust placed in you by other people. The question we should all ask ourselves today as we walk out of this building is, what have we done today for others? I am so glad I can continue my work answering that question at the Mercy Center in Asbury Park. The work there contributes to the health and welfare of the people in Asbury Park and the local community by working to end generational poverty every day. I want to thank all those here from Mercy Center and all those in food insecurity and all those in health for being here today, because you are the reminders to all of us that we have so much more to do. Wrapping this chapter up, I'm incredibly pleased that at least in this State House, I will be forever young. Thank you, Liza. And I look forward to the opportunities ahead. Thank you, everyone. All right. And now I'm told we're supposed to go and pull down the, Margaret?